imagine or hope that people might listen to the record. I mean, do you see them listening to it as a piece, as they would a film? Or, I mean, how do you imagine people will experience it?
The main thing with anything like this is not to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, to kind of let it just roll over you. And not to play it, not that people would, but not to play it all the time. You know, ease into it and hope for the best.
Yeah, but it is an experience in a way that you wouldn't want it on in the background while you're having a few friends around to eat, would you, I guess?
Well, I don't know. It depends on the kind of party you're throwing, but probably not, no.
Yeah. Do you hear it? I mean, when it's being constructed, how do you hear it? Do you demo it? I can't imagine that happening.
No, I don't demo it. You can't play on guitar or piano. You can't demonstrate it that way.
Yeah.
You have to start. I mean, once I've done with the lyric, which is the hardest part where I start with everything, I take it and literally start, and this is a bad word today, but start arranging it.
Right.
You know, because people think arranging, this means lots of strings and things, but this means just laying it out as sounds and whatever the sketches that I'm going to need when I get in there, and that's the only way you can start it. Because there's nowhere. Lots of times there's nothing going on beneath to hang on to. It's just you're free falling in a lot of ways.
Right. You mentioned the lyric there, and clearly the lyrics are at the very heart of what it is. I mean, it's an experience in sound, but I'm guessing those sounds are informed entirely by the lyric. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, the lyric is the thing I spend the most time on because it's a weird thing, because that's the thing that's going to tell me what to use. It's the thing that's going to guide me all the way through it. And so I'm trying to dress the lyric. This is what's happening.
Yeah. And I know, I saw a reference that you'd made to, say, the avant-garde poetry in, say, the 1950s and stuff like that. And I remember that. But I got something that kept coming to me through listening to the record and the lyric was The Wasteland.
April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Because, and this is because most pop lyrics, and I know that's just for a handy tag to use, pop lyrics, but you know, you've come from that background. Most pop lyricists are singing themselves in some way. They're offering you a version, you know, Mick Jagger's offering you a version of himself or whatever, however exactly. But in say like Elliot in The Wasteland, you seem to be offering us snatches of conversation, echoes of other things, like a collage. It's not Scott Walker. It's multifaceted. There are characters. Is that right? Is that right?
Well, it is. I mean, I haven't seen The Wasteland in years, but I know what you mean. It's like things today. Nothing is linear anymore. Everything is collaged. And I'm not quite sure what the self is that I'm meant to be. So if there's this kind of construction going on all the time, what is it? So it's, you know, I don't have this strong identity.
Pain is not...
Pole sitter. There's no sense of, sometimes with people, there's no sense of a kind of willful obscurantism, if that's the right word, because I know, because of the pains you've taken in the booklet, you want people to understand what's happening.
I want to connect with people, and I realize that that's not going to be a big load of people, but I'm getting more people all the time, slowly, you know, coming around, and so it's spreading out a bit more. Every record.
Yeah. I know that you're a big film fan. That's obvious. And I wondered whether there were any analogies there in terms of is it mise en scène, that term people use about the placing of things in a frame to create an emotional mood?
In a frame.
Is that how you're placing those elements sonically?
Maybe it is. I mean, I've often thought about that because I do go to films a lot, and I'm fascinated with films, and maybe it has something to do with that I'm seeing it as a kind of picture, and but I don't know. It's like the question: are these really songs? I mean, I think they are, and some people think they are, but then some people wonder: are these songs? I don't know.
That has a connotation, doesn't it? Songs. We imagine we imagine Bob Dylan or Paul McCartney, don't we?
Yeah, songs. Yeah.
Crafted in an entirely different way.
That's right. Yeah.
But you think of them as songs.
I think of them as songs. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was saying, you wouldn't put it on perhaps at a party in the background. In the same way you wouldn't put a film on in the background, because you would not be experiencing it properly in that way, I'm guessing.
That's right. Yeah, and that's why I always hope people will buy at least, if not vinyl, a CD, because then they have the lyric and everything to experience. It's important that they try and experience it all at once, so that they don't have which you can't do with MP3s or that sort of thing.
Chunks being taken out of context on an iPod, that wouldn't.
Well, I think the tracks can be mixed around, but I'm hoping that they'll experience what I had in writing it. That they'll start with the lyric and they'll take it from there, really. So they have to really have something tangible to hang on to, to look at.
Yeah.
Rather than just something coming in the air.
Yeah. The centrepiece, almost literally, is to abbreviate it, Zircon, a flagpole city, which is 22 minutes long, and which posits this very interesting idea of Attila the Hun's jester. This. Now, to get this out of the way straight away, some people, people are always looking for detective work, and things will say, Zircon, this figure of a jester in the entertainment business who's kind of appalled by it and tries to rise above it, is analogous to maybe your thoughts about the entertainment world. Would that be reasonable?
No.
Good.
No. It's a character that I found, and I have a friend who's got an enormous library, and he lets me roam around and look at things. And I opened this book and found this character, and I think this is a great character to create something around. You can play with this character in time and everything, and I'm always looking for that. People are always looking for that, for plays and everything. And I was lucky to come across him because he really existed.
Yeah.
And of course, at the beginning of the song, he's being heckled, but he's being heckled by silence. So he has heckler responses to this. This silence is making him feel guilty, and it's because silence is where everything starts from. So it's the basis of everything.
Why sit in the dark, handling yourself?
And there's this kind of chilly moment in the song. There's lots of chilly moments in the song where his increasingly desperate attempts to crack wise are met with that kind of awful sound. So it's almost like an absurd drama, isn't it, when the kind of silence of the universe sort of confronts him in a way.
That's right, and his past keeps coming. Even at the end of the song, he's when he becomes the flagpole sitter, he's shouted at from below by people, and then he suddenly remembers all these kind of ripostes and little jokes he used to tell.
Hey, boy, this fall.
And then, of course, the song moves on from there. He's trying to get out of Attila's wooden palace, which is a big toilet to him. So there you have these toilet things on the wall with Roman numeral phone numbers. Basically, and it moves. And so it moves through various stages where he's a man who's trying to achieve a kind of height, but without a top or a bottom. He has a spiritual calling, nothing that can be calculated. So at different stages in the song, he has different podiums to take off from.
Yeah.
To literally try and get to this place that has no bottom or top. But he in the end, of course, he becomes this dwarf star, this brown dwarf, and burns out and dies.
Yeah.
And so he fails, but he tries.
I think I read a great quote from you saying one of the prerequisites of working on one of my records is that everyone's got to have a sense of humour. I don't want a lot of guys in black brooding around the studio noodling on things.
Well, that's right, because what happens is that the sounds that we're working with are so dark anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're so, oppressive a lot of the time that you've got to have that other layer going on, because that's what makes things interesting. If you're going all one way, somebody said, I wrote a really dark, bad term, but I wrote a dark song.
Yeah.
The vocals going dark, the recording's going dark, everything's going one way.
Yeah. There's
no relief, and it's boring. So you've got to keep many layers happening all the time, and that's what keeps it interesting.
Yeah. Orson Welles famously said about film studios, biggest train set a boy can have.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel sonically about the recording studio?
Well, it is. He's absolutely right. I mean, I do feel that way. It is great, but I wouldn't want one of my own. I mean, because I think it can overtake you. I know guys who get their own studios or build them, they become obsessed with the technology. Then the material goes out the window. the songs and everything else. Suddenly they're, well, I just got this into it, so I don't want any of that. I want to go in there fresh every time. And if I go in with Pete, he keeps up to date with all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But you do use a lot of non-musical elements, as it were. Yeah. And are they from the word go? Do you think when you've got the lyric, you think we'll need to have the sound of a machete or a chisel? Yeah.
I have a keyboard that has very few presets. So it means that if I'm indicating a sound, I'll think, I know what this is. When I get into the studio, this will sound like this. I'll make it sound like this. I'll find a way. Or this is meant to be this, or this is meant to be this. If I don't want to refine it at home because you lose that kind of edginess, It becomes, and you want to keep on top of things once you're in there, and so working under pressure is a good thing. And my apprenticeship from the old days, well, it tells me, you can't waste money or time when you get in there. You can't noodle around. You've got to. And I say plenty of space for noodling around when I know a musician, a certain musician is going to give me something extra, and or I'm going to get a surprise, and I'll listen for that. And you get those anyway.
Yeah. So you still have. I mean, nowadays the business model of the whole recording industry has collapsed, hasn't it? But you still have a kind of the things you learned in your apprenticeship.
Well, but only that. I mean, I certainly can't work as fast as that because we did everything live.
Yeah.
But I mean, I imagine we work faster than most people, but not to the detriment of the record. If we're not getting it, we'll hang on with the sound till we nail it.
Yeah. I think you said that when you started to write B-sides for the Walker Brothers, it was kind of like the thrill of having these forces at your disposal was inspiring.
Yeah, because I mean it was strictly a monetary decision by the managers, really. To somebody had to do it, and that's when I started to write songs. And they weren't very good, but I had the opportunity to think, well, I can bring in 10 basses here or, 20, whatever it is there.
Yeah. That's a question about politics, because there's a song, I mean, there's always what you could loosely call political, although I don't think that's the right word for what you do, because, again, politics in the rock milieu tends to mean John Lennon telling us his opinions about the world. Your songs, from The Electrician to the closing track of the new record, The Day the Conjugator Died, are political, but in an entirely different way, aren't they? You are clearly fascinated by something other than just giving us your opinions.
Yes, I mean, the thing that I don't find interesting is someone who'll just give you kind of reportage, or like you said, their opinion, because it's too prescriptive. I like to sneak around it and find another way into it.
And clearly something about people like Ceausescu is repellent and fascinating, I guess. Is that what? Yeah.
It's like all dictators. They're fascinating clowns, and they're failed artists in a way. A lot of them, they're failed, they're frustrated artists, and but they're dangerous clowns. They're.
Yeah.
So you got to keep an eye on them. And,
yeah.
But they're all very eccentric characters, and so that's always kind of interesting.
Would you research something if you were going to write a lyric about it?
Well, I would a little bit, but I don't ever want anything to be welded to historical fact. That's not what my songs are about.
No.
In other words, I'll go through it, I'll have a cursory glance at it, and then and if I'm interested, I'll go into it a little deeper, and then I'll find some way of condensing it, but try and drain as much fact out of it as I can, because I'm just using it as a springboard to talk about other things.
You're listening to The Freak Zone with me, Stuart McConey, and Scott Walker. That was The Day the Conjugator Died. That's a song about the life and particularly the death of the Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu. Dictatorship, fascism, totalitarianism, political corruption, all things that seem to obsess Scott these days. We're celebrating Scott's 70th birthday, and there is still a great deal more to come from Scott over the next 20 minutes. But here, I talked to him about that voice, that amazing signature baritone sound, and his rather complicated relationship with it. I get the impression, to a certain extent, that the classic, from inverted commas, the baritone that became associated with Scott Walker, is in some ways maybe not a burden, but you felt had been maybe trapped in one kind of specific emotional resonance or place by that way of singing. Is that right? And are you trying to fight against that?
Once again, we're going back to the lyric, because I don't want to put too much stress on it, because I'm not acting.
Yeah.
But if I have a character like a Zircon, and there are a few characters running through the songs, I have to pitch the voice where that character's going to come out.
Yeah.
If you sang it in a kind of mid-range baritone, you would not have the edginess. You would not have the stress that you need to do that. So actually, I'm singing higher and lower than I've sung before.
Yeah.
If I want to pitch that baritone down the center, I'd find a song that was appropriate. But not a lot of these songs are appropriate to that. They're extreme thoughts. They're extreme songs.
And people caught in extreme circumstances.
That's right. And there's nothing tranquilizing about it, you know.
Yeah. That other voice is almost too seductive, too luxuriant.
That's it. I mean, it pops through on a few times in there. You know, you can hear it popping in, but it's in and out.
Yeah.
You know, when things get very when things get very melodic, it's there, but it's not as prominent as before.
Yeah. I get the impression with some people in music that if you said that something was difficult, their record was difficult or challenging, they might say, great, I wanted it to be like that. But I get the impression that you might actually think, well, I hope not too much, because you are in the business, it seems clear that you're in the business of wanting to communicate rather than remain aloof.
That's it. No, I don't want people to recoil in horror or anything like that. They do, but I want them to listen. This is the way it sounds to me. I don't have a manifesto. I'm not an avant-gardist. I'm just dressing songs. Yeah. That's all I'm doing. And so, like, if I had a song that called for a Mantovani running string part, I would use it.
Sure. Oh, great. Yeah.
You know, I have no. Or if I had to croon a song, I would do it.
I thought that was my next question. If a subject matter or a song, a lyric occurred to you that was best expressed in Boy Child or Angels of Ashes, you would do that.
I would do that. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But it's clearly the things that are preoccupying you tend to be more. But I would say people in extreme situations.
I'm trying to get the song across, the lyric across.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This feels, and I think you might have said that it is. It feels like the third part feels like the tilt, drift, and this comprise a kind of trilogy, in that they are of a mood or of an atmosphere. Is that kind of right?
Well, I guess. I mean, I think it probably is time to make a
disco record.
A disco record, and why not?
Yeah.
And why not? And and something like that, you know, or a dance record. I don't know. It's time to sort of try something else. Mm. But it's difficult because we go back to what we were talking about earlier. Yeah. It's sort of my character in a sense. You know, this is kind of in my character, and I sort of have to shift it a bit. But I see several ways I can move, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, and you said, I think, that you write to order in that sense rather than purely for pleasure. And to a lot of people in rock culture, that will seem wow, that because they get this idea that people are writing songs all the time to.
No. What I meant by that, I don't mean it's very difficult writing, but for me, I mean, it's very, very hard work. But what I meant, I think, by that was that I was talking probably at a time when I didn't have a record deal or something.
Right.
If I don't have somebody who's going to do that, then I won't frustrate myself. A lot of people will. I'll do something else because it's always in the back of your head. You know, I've got this hanging around. Why won't somebody let me record it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I meant by that. But if I'm contracted or whatever, and I'll do it.
Oh no, yeah, and I wasn't implying any kind of criticism because I thought, well, yeah, again, that is simply we've learned a series of behaviours from the rock entertainment business. Whereas as a filmmaker. Would it be entirely... Filmmakers don't say, I'm going to make a film that I don't want anybody to see.
That's right, yeah.
Filmmakers make films to be seen rather than... It's exactly the same thing, isn't it?
Exactly,
Contracts are signed and delivery dates.
That's right, and you shouldn't frustrate yourself if possible to.
Do you remember saying on the Billy Cotton Band show in 1967 before you did Jacques Brel's My Death, this song deals with death and aspects of it. I hope you like it.
No. Because I was probably drunk.
Really?
I don't remember that.
Because that's hilarious. I assume that you must have been slightly teased.
What did I say? What was it?
Apparently you said before, I've yet to find this on YouTube, it must be before you introduced My Death on the Billy Cotton Band show in 1967 with the words, this song deals with death and some aspects of it. I hope you like it. Which sounds to me like you're kind of making fun of it, which is brilliant.
That's great. I just remember that.
What do you listen to? Wait, for fun?
Oh, not much these days. No, because I'll listen to Radiohead. You know, I love Radiohead. Oh, I love the Tame Impala record. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love that record, yeah. And St. Vincent last year, I liked her record very much.
you still listen to jazz and classical music?
Not jazz so much these days, but jazz has become a little cliche-ridden now. They've kind of reached the limits of what they can do at the moment, and that's a terrible thing to say, but I don't listen as much as I should do anymore. Maybe people are doing things now. But
we'll send you some wild modern jazz. That you kind of. But there's a lot of people in Leeds. There's a whole scene around Leeds with these people making wild.
Oh, I love
noisy,
to hear that
muscular records. Yeah.
Because some of the stuff I hear on the radio, it just I heard it back in the '60s, or
And they're still interested in film.
Very much so, but there's not a lot of films. I mean, there's too much of everything at the moment. So there'll be something like a Haneke film or the Paul Thomas Anderson. I'll go and see something like that.
But we wouldn't see down the DVD store getting the latest.
Well, you might. I mean, I'll go see. What was the last Ridley Scott film I saw?
Prometheus.
Yes, I went to see that. No, I'll go see things like that too. Yeah.
Here's the question that you always get asked: would you play live again?
Well, the answer is every time I sit down to write an album, I think, well, I should keep this in mind. I mean, I really should. But then I get carried away, and I got to cast 1,000 suddenly, with my imagination. Yeah. And it's unpromotable, and it's very tough sing to do that on tour all the time because there's no guitar breaks, there's nobody giving you any kind of, it's straight through. So next year when I sit down again to start a record, I'll think I got to keep this down, and maybe I'll get out there with if I can keep the expenses down.
Maybe maybe your work demands a different kind of presentation and show than what we think of as traditional.
Maybe
ladies and gentlemen, not that kind of show.
Yeah, let me into your living rooms, folks.
Yeah,
no, I know that, but no, it's well, I'd have to think about that.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Stuart. It's
Thank
a good
you.
one. Good one. It's the best interview I've had so far.